lady for, hang on, you're recording. For allowing us this chance to bring the Word of God to you guys from Proverbs. And for those of you that don't know us, I am John Guarino, and this is my lovely and beautiful wife, Amy. And tonight we will be teaching out of the book of Proverbs, chapter 12 tonight. And we'll just start off with a little prayer, and then we'll get rolling. Dear Lord, just thank you for this opportunity, Lord, and just use us as empty vessels, Lord, and just fill our hearts and our minds, Lord, with your Holy Spirit, Lord. And just let the words flow out of us, Lord. Just use us, Lord, in any way that you see fit tonight, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. So, Proverbs, and the way my mind works is, as I started this one, I went, who is Solomon, and why did he write all this stuff? So, as I went through, and I knew who Solomon was, and for those of you, Solomon's mother was Bathsheba. Bathsheba was the one that King David saw on the rooftop, and everybody knows that story. And I got to thinking that how, and especially me myself, I look at my past and I want to say I'm not worthy. I can't do it. Why would God use somebody like me to do anything? But yet, here is Solomon, that he, his start came out of an act of sin. That when, well, on the rooftop, that one's, but the same mother was Bathsheba. But that whole web of sin where David started that's where Solomon came from. Now, Bathsheba was a loving mother, and she saw something very special in Solomon, and that was her fourth child. And so she groomed him up to be her favorite. And then when it was time, he became king. But it just goes to show that God can use anybody from any start. No matter how we got here, we all started anew. When we accepted Jesus, everything was washed away. So we feel like we get caught up in this web of sin, and that we can't be used. But God can use us from anywhere, from any direction. So, and I got to thinking. So, and we say Solomon wrote Proverbs, but a lot of this came from David. Solomon heard a lot of this stuff through his life growing up from King David. David was a man after God's own heart, and that's how Solomon learned a lot of this stuff. Before, he was raised hearing this stuff, and in some of the Psalms that David wrote, there's even one, and if we get to it, where it's Psalms 119. It's the longest chapter in the Bible. And it's where David's basically teaching Solomon the Hebrew alphabet in this, as you read down through it. But a lot of this stuff is stuff that Solomon heard growing up. And the difference between knowledge, Proverbs is knowledge. It's knowledge is what it is. The difference between wisdom and knowledge, wisdom is taking that knowledge and intertwining it in our daily lives and using it day to day. So there's a big difference between having knowledge and having wisdom. So and if I get to talking, if you see me fall off the chair, it's because Amy figured I was talking too much and pushed me. So call 911 if you see me. So with that, we're going to start with and we'll be reading most of the time out of the NLT tonight. So if I ask you to read, if you can just read out of that, there'll be a couple times where we switch over, but I'll let you know. But Proverbs chapter 12, verse 1 in the NLT, it says, to learn, you must love discipline. It is stupid to hate correction. And stupid is a word I know we don't use nowadays, but when this was written, it means brutish. It's referring to an animal, a beast, doing its own thing, having its own way. not stupid like we think nowadays. So, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you can't say it's stupid," but that's what that word meant back then. And this goes back to, and I think back when I was growing up, and I got whoopings growing up. I didn't get spankings. I didn't get timeouts. I got whoopings. I got good old fashioned whoopings from every direction with everything. So, and my stepdad used, "This is gonna hurt me more than it's gonna hurt you." And I never understood that, because I always used to think, "Boy, let me get that switch and turn around. Let's see who's hurting who then," you know. But as I look back in life, I think I'm where I'm at because of the things I went through. And that was one of the things I went through. And if I had listened up early in life, it would have saved me a lot of pain in my life. Even I remember, just growing up, don't touch the stove, it's hot, getting a spanking. Don't touch the stove, get out of the kitchen, it's hot, spanking. Well, finally, I put my hand up on the stove and I burnt my hand. So I got, see, that's what you get for touching the stove. I told you not to touch it. And then I got a spanking for touching the stove. So now I got a burnt hand and I got a spanking. So all they were doing is trying to teach me. You learn two ways in life: your pain or somebody else's pain. That's the only two ways to learn something. So, and it's a lot easier when we learn from somebody else's pain, not our own. It's just a lot of us, at least me, I was so stupid in life, so brutish that I want to do my own thing, that I had a really, really hard time up with this until about 4 years ago, when I really started following after God. I really had an issue with this. I always knew more than anybody. I used to say I know more about nothing than anybody, and I could argue that point with anybody, and it was really hard for me to take correction. But in the Bible, and the shepherd is the same way when he disciplines us, and to love discipline is setting boundaries, and we need to have these boundaries. And when the shepherd's got his flock of sheep and he has his staff, and a lot of times the staff, it has that shape up on top, and that's there for a reason. One, it adds more surface area when he's tapping the sheep to get them back in line. And also they can hook it on the sheep and pull them out if they're stuck in the water or whatever, get them back in line. But what he's doing with that shaft, that's the sheep start to go one way or the other, he just taps them, gets them back in line, taps them, gets them back in line. It just sets a boundary for him. And all he's doing is keeping them safe. And he just keeping them in the flock where everybody's there and safe. And when I was younger, I was the sheep that was always running on the edge, thinking I knew better than everybody and trying to get out. And he would tap me, God would tap me, and I'd turn around. What? Don't be tapping me. I know what I'm doing out here. Nothing. There's no wolves out here. Let me go over here where it's fun. This look at all the fun stuff over here. Off I go running. There's no wolves over here. This is where all the fun stuff's at, over here in the bushes. Until the wolf jumps on me, tears me up. Here comes God, carrying me back to the flock. Here you go, little Johnny. Get back in the flock. Until I try to go out. The more I went out, the bigger the stick got. Until finally he dropped the house on me about 4 years ago. So after that, I don't need the big stick anymore. Just that little tap, I remember. Get back in line, Johnny. So now I'm in the middle of the flock, and I'm the guy poking his head out. And hey, Bobby, be careful. There's a wolf over there, Bobby. Don't, I'm in the middle of the flock now where it's safe. You ain't hit me with that stick. Two, I'm in the middle where it's safe. And the rest of the guys on the outside of the flock can get hit with the stick and get attacked by the wolves, because I'm in the middle. I'm either going to be right next to the shepherd in front of him, or I'm in the middle of the flock where the wolves can get everybody but me, But Bobby don't care. Bobby's the one on the outside attacking the wolves. That's why he's on the outside of the flock. Not that he's trying to get away. Bobby's out looking for the wolves to keep the rest of us safe. So, but it's just in Proverbs 13:11, it also talks about, it says, a wise man hears his father's instruction, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. Um, the only way to grow in knowledge, um, we have to admit that we were wrong, we were in error, we were ignorant of a certain issue, or we were told wrong. And we have to be careful if we don't accept this discipline to learn correction, that we can teach people the wrong thing. Even I have with this, and I'm doing this because Bishop snuck up on behind me and jumped on me and told me I had to do it because I didn't think I was ready yet. And I just get worried that I might share the wrong thing or teach the wrong thing. But if I have no problem, like I know Minister Daly asked me, are you ready to pray on the fire? No, I had no problem with that one. But for whatever when Bishop asked me, I have trouble telling him no. So I'm and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, he's so close to God, and I believe everything else he says. Maybe I'm ready if he says, or you're ready. So I have trouble telling Bishop no, but it's admitting that you're wrong or that you're error, that pridefulness comes in, that, and we don't want to learn. But the to grow in knowledge, that's one of the first steps. We have to admit that that we are wrong.
At sometimes in our lives, we all need rebuke and correction. There's been times where I've gotten rebuked for the good. Did I wanted something? No. It hurt my feelings, but I knew that it was from God. And then I'm like, God, where did I miss you on this? And I'm like, are you serious? Are you sure that person's right? I want to sit there and argue with God on a rebuke sometimes. You know, there was, I guess Bishop had said something to John a while back, said that, you know, I didn't want to submit. That was painful to me. I didn't hear it from him, but John came back and told me that. I'm like, oh, and I started searching my heart. I was like, is that where I'm at? Do I not want to submit? And I needed that rebuke, because if I never got that rebuke, I probably wouldn't be on here today. And some people might not think that was, but it was for me, because it taught me to grow. That was correction for me, that I didn't think that I had a problem in that area. I was also humble enough to take that correction. We all need to stay humble enough to take correction.
And that, like I said, I was referring to Psalm 19, and I jumped down. A lot of it's the same, but it's verses 97 through 104, and I'm running a little bit long behind. I don't know if I can cover, so I'll just cover it real quick. But for the verse, I'm even wiser than my elders, and maybe if one of the singers could sing it, maybe, but I can't. But for I have kept your commandments, and I have refused to walk on any evil path, so that I may remain obedient to your word. I haven't turned away from your regulations, for you have taught me well. So this is King David writing this in a way to teach. Each one starts, there's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. So each one of these starts as one of the letters, is how it went. So, but this is King David writing this. So that's why I think a lot of this stuff that Solomon's writes down in Proverbs comes from David, because a lot of this is in this. And if you read the whole chapter, like I said, it's the longest one in the Bible. He goes on to talk about a lot of the stuff that you can tie back into Proverbs. And a lot of the Psalms do reference back and forth from Proverbs back and forth. So that's why I think that a lot of this stuff came from Solomon's father. Verse 1. So verse 2. So we're going to cover verse 2 and 3. So Proverbs chapter 12, verse 2 and 3. Verse 2, the Lord approves of those who are good, but he condemns those who plan wickedness. And then verse 3, wickedness never brings stability, but the godly have deep roots. I was going through this, and where I came across, and it was kind of a weird verse for me to come across that I tied this back into, but it's Jeremiah 17, verses 7 and 8. If I can get somebody to read that. Just nobody, anybody? Do I just pick then, I guess?
I can read it.
Okay.
Um, but blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. They are like trees planted along a riverbank with roots that reach deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit.
So when I read verse 2 and 3, and to me they and some of these verses go together. Maybe they don't go together to some people. But to me, these two tied in. The Lord approves those who are good, but condemns those who plan wickedness. And it doesn't even say do wickedness, just plans wickedness. Those who think it. So it's all the same. Wickedness never brings stability. They It always has that you're standing on that ball trying to bounce the ball like the bear in the circus, and you can't quite get it right, and you never can build on that kind of foundation. Jesus is our corner foundation that we need to build on, and the godly had deep roots, and that's what drove me to this verse. And why do the godly have deep roots? And it just got me to this one where the tree was planted down by the water, and the deep roots. The deeper the roots go, the sturdier the tree, and like a palm tree. That's why a palm tree usually, if a hurricane comes through, you never see it uprooted at the roots. You see it broke off. If the wind's going to break it, it's going to break it off. Its roots run so deep that it can't get pulled up. That's why usually palm trees you don't see blown over. That's why it takes forever. You see palm trees when they put them in the ground, they're usually just that ball, then they put the sticks on them, the wood to hold them. It takes forever to get the roots down. And I've heard a half a mile, and then some of them that they went down. That's how deep the roots go. When it talks about by the water, that's where the roots get all the nutrients. And not only that, the deeper your roots go, the more roots you have, you can stop that erosion coming from the water as it splashes up against you. As the pressure of the world comes, it helps keep your soil, that fertile soil around you. The more roots that you have to hold that soil in place, you can keep as the weather beats up against us and the waves from the world, we can keep that rich soil that's there, that's the word next to us. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit. And once again, I'll give Brother Scott this. He brought this up in one of our men's group where Jesus cursed the fig tree, and he said Jesus cursed the fig tree because he was mad. He wanted a fig and the tree didn't have a fig on it, so he cursed it. So when Jesus comes to me and it's time and he wants my fig, I want to make sure I got a fig. I don't want to be cursed. So that's why this verse tied into me, that the wicked never bring stability, but the godly have deep roots. I want my deep roots. I want to be by the river. I want my leaves always to be green, and I always want to have fruit. So when it's time, my fruit's there. I don't want Jesus to come out to me and I not have a fig for him and he curse me.
I want to talk about a good man obtains favor in the Lord. And the principle was from the covenant, but now all we have to do is we'll just have to ask Jesus to forgive us. But to be obedient to God, it leads us deeper to him when we're obedient. And sometimes, we're trying to impress people so hard that we'll do anything we have to, and we can push. And there goes that wickedness trying to rise up in us when we're trying to get to the top. We want this position in the job. So we'll push people down lower just to get that position. Or we want something that's on sale. We will sure push someone out of the way to get that. That's all wickedness. It all rises up in us. And it's rooted, but we got to uproot it. We don't live like that anymore. We have to ask God forgive us. We got to have God's voice where we can hear it. If we get too far, we don't hear it. We don't hear God's voice anymore. We turn God's voice off. and we definitely need to stay connected. And, in the weakness of the heart, God knows, even if we think it, not even if we don't even do it, he already knows. We might not do it, but he heard us. He already knew that we was thinking it. So we need to even keep our thoughts in check, because even though we don't do it, to him it was, because he knows our thoughts. So we just need to stay close to God and stay rooted in him and grounded in him, and know if we're pulling away just a slight bit, that, whoa, wait a minute, let me get back over, because I'm a little out of perfection where God says we should be. No, go ahead.
That's verse 3 too.
Oh. And I put down, no one can pluck us out of God's hands, John 10:28. And that's what he says. If you stay in God's will, no one can pluck you out of God's hands.
Proverbs 12:4. A wife is a thorn in my. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's the wrong version. Let me get back to NLT. Says a worthy wife is a crown for her husband, but a disgraceful woman is like cancer in his bones. So, and I was joking with Amy. So I got this one. I got this one. This is gonna be a fun one. And I made sure there was none of the husband ones before I said all that. So I was good. But a worthy wife is a crown for her husband, but a disgraceful woman is like cancer for his bones. But I got to thinking, am I doing everything for my wife to make her a worthy wife? And I got a crown. So where does the crown go? A crown goes on my head. I can't get a crown on my head and lift it up. So am I lifting up my wife? Am I giving her the glory of being my crown? I need to lift her up and put her on a pedestal, put her on my head, for all to see. So am I doing everything that I can do first? Let me look, and that's where I got that verse. Let me be a better husband first. Let me lift her up like the crown that she is. And then it goes on to talk about, but a disgraceful woman is like cancer in his bones, rottenness. And I think this is a good word, and cancer, rottenness from the inside out, that's a slow illness. Very seldom do you hear that cancer, somebody died from cancer. You hear they found out they had it and passed away, but they've had it for a while usually. So the cancer, rottenness, that's just putting a little bit of, turning that screw each day, just a little bit, and that's what happens when we're not equally yoked. We've both been in previous marriages, and that's kind of what we went through. I wasn't the best husband in my first marriage, so I might have been the disgraceful wife, and she was the husband in that one. But I think God brought us to this place we are right now in our life together, because we are equally yoked. But you got to be careful who you're with. Make sure that those of you that aren't married, that are looking, that seek advice from your elders, from your members, your other people in church that offer marital advice, counseling before you get married. Make sure that that's the right person. Otherwise, and it works both ways, whether it's a disgraceful husband, disgraceful woman, that's a slow death that you don't want to deal with, and it just you don't realize that you're dying until it's too late, and because it's coming from the inside. And in Ephesians 5:25, but I tied this back in also. So the church is the bride of Jesus. So are we being disgraceful to Jesus? Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So let's flip it around now. Can Jesus put us on his head as the crown? Are we being disgraceful? Are we killing Jesus like cancer slowly? Are we causing that pain to him on the inside every day? I don't want to be that person. I want to make sure that Jesus can pick me up and put me on his head and say, look, this is what you're supposed to look like. And he's got me up on his head where everybody, I'm a crown. He's got me up on his head where everybody can see me. He's not scared of me. He's not scared of what I'm going to say or do or put him down. So I think it goes back into that just as we should lift our wives up, we should be in a position in our lives, in our walk with Jesus, that he can lift us up too and put us on his head.
An excellent wife is the crown to her husband, but she who causes shame is rottenness in the bones. You know, men, they achieve many things, but if we're bringing our husbands down, and then happiness and life, unless there is happiness in the home for a man, the house is exempt. The wife is supposed to be happiness for the home. It's supposed to be a safe home for him to come home to. We're supposed to lift him up. We're not supposed to nag every day, even though we want to. We're supposed to do it with joy. Because we bring shame to our husbands and to the family. It takes away the happiness instead of bringing it. And we need to bring the happiness to them instead of being disobedient. Because when we're not being that wife that God's asked us to be, then we are being disobedient.
Good. So Proverbs 12 verses 5 and 6, like I said, the NLT says, the plans of the godly are just, or the righteous are just. The advice of the wicked is treacherous. And in verse 6, the words of the wicked are like a murderous ambush, but the words of the godly save lives. So what do we think about? Not even what we're saying. What do we think about? Because our thoughts, they prove what our real character is. And it's not what we say, our thoughts. And others may not know our thoughts, but God does. In Hebrews 4, verse 12, it says, for the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. So Jesus can read our thoughts. He does know our hearts. So it's not even just speaking it. We got to watch what's in our minds and in our hearts, so we're not bringing that shame to God. If we want to be like God, we need to be like God inside and out, not just on the outside, but on the inside. You know, are we righteous? Are we wicked in our thoughts? We need to train our thoughts. And it goes on to say, even the thoughts of foolishness is sin. So even I was just joking, I just playing, I didn't mean to say that, that hurts and that's wrong. And even talk in Proverbs 24 verse 9, the thought of foolishness is sin. It says it right there in the Bible, so it must be true. So we got to be careful what we think about, not only what we say, but this is just talking about, the plans of the godly are just, the advice of the wicked is treacherous. So we need to think before we say anything. So before we give advice, we need to think. We need to guard our heart with all diligence, because that's where the issues of life come from, is our heart. Just like I was talking about last night, that's where the seed of faith gets planted. That's where the seeds of doubt and everything else get planted too in our hearts. So we need to make sure that we keep our heart, our soil, free of the weeds. So we can't have the seeds of the word planted in our heart if the weeds are in there choking it out. If we allow all these weeds, these other seeds that shouldn't be there to be planted, weeds usually grow faster than regular plants anyways for a reason. They want to outgrow it. They want to get to the sun first. So usually they'll grow faster so they can choke out whatever's there. They want the light, they want the nutrients. So usually they're going to try to outgrow the other stuff. That's why they're called weeds. And the heart is, so we got to be careful what's in there and make sure we get anything in our heart that shouldn't be there. And the heart is the source of our emotions. It's also the motive of the choices we make, what we desire, what we love. So we got to rule our heart also. We got to train our heart to love the things that are right. When I go to a restaurant, I don't order a salad unless it's coming with a steak and a baked potato and stuff. But I know the salad is good and I need to train myself. I was probably Bob is raising his hand and stuff, but I need to train myself, my heart, that when I go in there, what I'm ordering is I like the salad. I'm going to order the salad because I like it. But in our heart, we make our decisions on things that we love, that we want. We need to make sure that we're loving and desiring the correct things. And if not, we need to train our heart, train our mind to love the correct things so it's easier for us to make them decisions. I think that's all I have for that one. Oh, no, okay. And then, so I typed in Psalms 1, verses 1 through 3. It talks about, it says, oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked. And this is where I said, so a lot of this advice I think came from David, because this is a Psalms written. But oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with mockers, but they delight in the law of the Lord, or the word of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They are like trees planted. And I used this last night, and it tied back into this. And it also ties back into some of what Bishop was preaching about this past Sunday. We have to love everybody. We don't have to run with them. So we do have to love them. So just be careful who we're around, who we're getting advice from. Make sure that advice is coming from somebody that we can learn from, somebody that's wiser than us. I don't want to learn from somebody who knows less than me. That does me no good. That's just going to get me in more trouble than what I'm already in, and my life is already messed up enough on my own. I need people around me, and that's why I love Frontier Church. The wisdom that's in that church, the misfits that are there. We all come from so many messed up lives that I can learn from everybody else's pain. I know my own pain that I've learned from, but everybody else has that story that in the vision of the church, we're a multicultural church. It can't be a multicultural church if we all come from the same neighborhood, if we've all been through the same pain. So that's how I look at it every time I hear Bishop say that. When I look around, when I hear multicultural, we've all been through different journeys to get where we're at. We've all had different pain. And everybody in that church has been so transparent and open to share that pain. So I don't have to touch that hot stove and say, oh, it is hot. I can listen to everybody else's pain and go, you know what? I trust them. That pain is real. I can hear it. I've had enough pain in my life. I don't need any more pain than what I've already had. I'm going to listen to that advice.
I'll touch on the thoughts. Not only our thoughts should be lined with God, because most times we say, oh, it's our actions, but our thoughts should be too. Just like at work, my brother-in-law, he started working with us, and he's with my sister, and I try to encourage him, and he's hard to work with. And sometimes, I ain't gonna lie, the thought come up, I just wanted to shove his head in that toilet. And I'm not gonna lie about that one. And then I hear God again. And he says, well, you keep complaining, I remove him, and then you will have all the work to do that he has to do, because we have to pull somebody's weight if they're not there. I was like, oh, let me stop, because why my thoughts? But I was acting towards him like I would try to encourage him and lift him up, but there was a piece of me really wanted to, my thought, it was totally different than what I was saying, because he is was hard to work with. And, you know, most of the time it comes from brokenness or hurt. And sometimes our feelings and emotions of ourselves get in the way. You know, that's even how wickedness can creep up on us, because our emotions and our feelings of how we are feeling at that moment, how we react. And we got to be careful in that area, because that's when we can lose our witness. And that's one thing I fear, that I don't want to lose my witness to people. And I always want people to see God in me, not my flesh. But you always got to stay humble, and you always got to hear God's voice, because if I wasn't listening to God, well, that other side of me might have shoved his head down that bullet, and not still try to encourage him and go to God and say, I'm sorry for even thinking about that.
So you shove people's heads in the toilet? I didn't know about that story. This is the first time I heard this story, so it's coming out now. Proverbs 12, verse 7, and I tied in verse 21 with it too. Verse 7, it says, the wicked die and disappear, but the family of the godly stand firm. And verse 21, it says, no harm comes to the godly, but the wicked have their fill of trouble. And I got to thinking, what? The wicked die and disappear, but the family of the godly stand firm. Family of the godly. So, a couple of easy ones, you know, I came, you know, Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, that was the wicked. They just died. Everybody wiped out. Only the Lot and his family. And his wife didn't even make it. She wanted to turn back and look at the fun again one last time. But the wicked die and disappear. They just wiped out. No records of anybody. No nothing. Everything up and gone. I mean, God's not playing back then. And Noah. I mean, you can't wipe out any more than that. I mean, here Noah got a word, built a boat for 100 years, preached for 100 years, 7 people, 8 counting him. That's not. I mean, if you're a preacher and you preach for 100 years and you get 7 people in them 100 years, you know, that might throw some doubt in my mind on maybe I didn't hear from God. There's only 7 of them coming, and they're my family. So, but sometimes we have to take care of our family first, and then worry about everybody else. Sometimes we can only protect our family. But then I got to thinking, I said, you know, the wicked die and disappear, and I want to see who in the Bible disappeared. There was a lot of evil, wicked, that God just wiped off the whole tribes out, you know, without even thinking. But King Herod the Great. So here he comes. One, he tries to kill Jesus, and he has the King Herod, the Tetrarch, and then there's another King Herod, and on down. But you know, the son tried to, or he's the one that killed John the Baptist, and there's other stuff. Well, when it's all said and done, there is no living survivor of the blood of King Herod the Great. That was what he was called, King Herod the Great. The bloodline stopped. And he did a lot of good things in history, when you architecturally and everything like that. When you read some of the stuff that he built, stuff like that, he did quite a bit. But man, was that a Jerry Springer family. If you want to read Jerry Springer and see it before TV, you go find and read up on King Herod and how messed up his family was. The family of the godly stands firm. We are the family. We are Jesus' family. So we need to stay firm. We need to stand firm on the word. Here King Herod gets wiped out. His whole family's gone. 2,000 years later, here we are. We're standing strong, and that's how we need to stand, is strong. So that's all I have on that one.
Go ahead to number 18.
You want to do 18? Let me cover this one real quickly. I saw this one and I was like, so Proverbs 12, verse 10. The godly care for their animals, but the wicked are always cruel. And I wanted to think about this. And this is not a proverb for PETA. I'm going to go out and say this right now. This doesn't say, don't let somebody use this verse and say, don't shoot the animal, you shouldn't be eating meat, and you shouldn't be wearing their skin. No, we were given domain over everything. So if it looks good, it tastes good, I'm supposed to eat it. So don't be trying to pull PETA on me. But don't go out shoot something if you're not going to eat it. Don't go out killing something if you're not going to eat it. It's not a sport. Everything is God's creation. We need to love it. And how you don't have to be an animal person to love an animal. It doesn't say everybody go out and get a dog or cat or fish or whatever. But everything is God's creation. So we need to love that just as you would anything else. Don't kick a dog. Don't kick the cat. If you got an animal, feed it. If you don't want to feed it, don't get the animal. Take care of it. You made that decision to get it. Take care of it. So I just want to touch on that because I was like, man, this is a verse I could see where somebody could use this really against me if I didn't know, if I couldn't argue it back. But and a lot of people, if we can't treat a lonely animal correctly, what does that show the compassion that I have towards them that I can't have towards any of my brothers or my sisters or the family? So I think the compassion that we can show towards the lowly, except spiders. Spiders, I think they're from Satan. I'm pretty sure. I just haven't found it in the Bible. Spiders are from Satan, but all the other animals you have to love, except spiders. But roaches, spiders and roaches. Them two, but everything else you gotta love. But how you treat animals, I think, shows your love for God. And we're all God's creations.
Let's go to 25.
25 or 8. Okay. 25. We're going to jump around. So Proverbs 12, verse 18, 25, and 26. We kind of tied up. Oh, this is 25.
On the anxiety.
Okay. So we'll do Proverbs 12, 25. So in the NLT, it says, worry weighs a person down, an encouraging word cheers a person up. And I wanted to read this one also in a different version just because this is something I dealt with and I wanted to get this out. In New King James Version, it's anxiety in the heart of a man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. So you want to go ahead and go first?
So anxiety, the problem is not what is happening at the time, it's how we respond to it. It's feelings, emotions, once again. Like I'll take Sarah, for example, where God made her a promise that she was going to have a child. And she believed God, but she didn't believe God that God was going to do it for her. But she knew God could do it. So she believed God, but she didn't believe it could do it for her. So she got anxiety. She jumped the gun, thought she could play God for a moment. And then her husband said, yes, let's go.
Free pass.
Free pass. And then she got angry at her choice at that time, because she made a choice under anxiety, out of depression, out of feelings, out of emotions, that, you know, we all been through places where we don't want to get up out of bed, that we're tired, that why are we going through this? And once again, we can't ask why. We just got to keep the joy. He said, do all things with joy. Well, I do have joy. Well, put more joy with it. Get up, make the bed with joy. Get up and pick your husband's socks up with joy. Because our emotions, how we feel, we can't go by that. Because if we feel, oh, I do not feel good today, I just don't even want to talk to John sometimes. I'll tell John straight out, don't talk to me today. I don't feel like talking.
She does.
And that's just a warning, because I'm feeling in my emotion at that moment. And then I used to go and I pray and I said, God, what's wrong with me? That's where we're supposed to go. We don't supposed to stay stuck in our emotion or how we're feeling. We got to get up out of that depression and move on, because that's not where God wants us to stay. That's not God's heart for us. He loves us, and he don't like to see us down like that. And I went through a lot of that in my last marriage. Like, I was barely floating. Like, I felt like I was drowning every day. Like, I would drag, but I knew that God had something better. I knew if I just held on to the hem of his garment, that's all I felt like I had, was just a piece of him sometimes. But I knew if I let go, I would drown. And we can't let go, even though if we're feeling like we're about to drown, because he will drag us back up. Just like Peter with his hand up, when he started sinking, he'll pull us right back up. And sometimes we could be like Peter and want to cut somebody's ear off really fast. But Jesus said, no, you can't do that. There could have been 4 men on that cross instead of 3 on the cross, because Peter could have got in trouble for cutting his ear off. But no, God saved him. Jesus saved him, said, no, you can't do that. And that's the way he is for us. He's always out there rescuing us. What you doing? Get up. Don't go by your depression or how you feeling. Get up. Don't stay down. Get up.
Like I said, this verse really, because, and I don't want to be poor me, but a lot of stuff happened to me when I was, and I'll be transparent. I was physically abused, mentally abused, sexually abused growing up. So by the grace of God, I'm where I'm at today. So this verse really touches home to me. Anxiety in the heart of a man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. A good word. Not, it'll be okay doesn't cut it. I don't know how many times I was told, you'll be okay. That's not what I wanted to hear. Or deal with it. It has to be a good word. Sorry. But 3 things though, when we find this in these spots, when we start to worry, when we start to have anxiety, that we can do. Number 1, do what you can do. Number 2, give God what you can't do. And number 3, trust God no matter what. And if we follow them 3 things, we can find peace in our hearts and our minds. We don't have to do everything on our own. We have a Holy Father that is there for us. We're not expected to do everything on our own. Not only we have that, we have the family, the church family that we've been given, that is there to reach out to for help. So as we find that we're in these spots of depression and anxiety and why me, that we need to reach out and ask for help. Don't deal with this on our own, you know. And then I kind of wrote all the little sayings together. So when was the last time you took time to think about what you were thinking about, and had a checkup from the neck up, got rid of stinking thinking, and had an attitude of gratitude. So I tied all them together for everybody. And I came across, so it's 2 Corinthians 4, verses 7 through 9. And I was trying to think how fragile we are and how much power we have in us. It says, now we have this light shining in our hearts, but we ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing this great treasure. This makes it clear that our great power is from God, not ourselves. We are blessed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. So that the life of Jesus may also be seen in our bodies. And when I read this, it reminded me of diamonds, how diamonds are formed by pressure. And I tied this back in with to be a great, we need to be pressed. No matter what happens, though, we're being formed into diamonds that are in our daily activities that we do. The more pressure that we go through, the power is in us, and our vessel will never be broken as long as we keep the Holy Spirit in the jar. You know, as long as he's in there and we're seeking God and we're meditating, we're chewing that word over and over and over, and then go back and chew it some more. As long as we keep going back and back to the word, God's there. He's always with us. No matter what we think we're going through, he's always there. And he's bigger than anything. He created everything, so why can't he defeat anything? He's the one who created it. So, pressure makes diamonds. So, and diamonds in the rough. That's what I am. I'm a diamond in the rough. And I still got a ways to go before. And I've been built by everything I've been through to today. I thank God that I went through it, and he was with me every time, the whole way. I didn't know he was with me the whole way, but I'm glad he was. And I'm where I'm at now, so I can share my story with the rest of from going through the same pain that I had to deal with. So I had to go through that in order to save somebody else the pain from going through it. And I realized that. What time is it? There's a couple. Was it? Well, this is verse 18. Proverbs 12, verse 18. Some people, I had these tied together, but we covered verse 25. I had verse 18, 25, and 26 together. Some people make cutting remarks, but the word of the wise bring healing. There's life, death in the tongue. And we talked about this last night, and I talked about this in the men's group growing up. The physical abuse that I experienced growing up, I don't remember the pain. The verbal abuse, them words still cut me today. I still deal with these words on a daily basis. You'll never be good enough. You'll never do this. You're this, you're that, you're this. Them every time Amy can say a word, and I'll say, stop hollering at me. Why would you say that? She said, I didn't say that. But in my mind, something triggers that I hear my stepdad. And so we have to be careful what we say, how we say it, who's around us when we're talking. We never know who's around us. I could be talking to Bobby and not realize who's over here, at work as I'm talking to other employees and John, I thought John was supposed to be godly now. Why is he yelling at that person? That's not, if that's what it's all about, I don't want to know what he knows now. He's in no better position than I am. The thing about, if we can control our tongue, we'd be perfect. So knowing that we can't control it, it rolls us back into some of the other Proverbs. It's throughout Proverbs about the tongue. You could just do sermon after sermon after sermon about the tongue, but in James it talks about if you control it, you'd be perfect. But we can't. What we can do, though, and some of the other Proverbs talks about, we can stop and think before we say anything. Is what I'm going to say going to bring life to somebody? Is what I'm going to say going to bring healing to somebody? Just like we talked about last night, what I say brings it into existence. So let's be careful what we're saying as we're going day to day. Let's make sure what we say glorifies God, that God comes out of our mouth on a daily basis. I don't want people looking back. I want to be, and I don't want to say this like I need this to be, but when I'm gone, John was a godly man. He had a lot of wise things to say. I don't want people. He's dead and he was a liar and we have to be. And we didn't even get into some of the liar stuff. We have to be careful. The tongue, it lies. It's deceitful. And as we're talking, we'll build a reputation of being a liar. And once you're a liar, you're always a liar. So people won't come to you for advice. It's hard to break these reputations once that's instilled in their mind. If you give me bad advice once, I'm not going back again. If I ask, hey Bobby, I want to be buff like you, and Bobby tells me, John, keep doing what you're doing, buddy. Keep eating them donuts and sodas, and you'll look just like me. Well, you're down the road. I don't look like Bobby. I'm not even close to Bobby. I ain't going back to Bobby this time. I'm going to go find somebody else now and say, listen, Bobby gives bad advice because I've been eating chocolate donuts left and right, and I ain't getting any better. So we have to be careful when we're talking, and that we're glorifying God in not only our actions, our speech, what we look at. We got to be careful what we put in our eye hole and ear hole is going to come out our pie hole. So we have to be careful. And nowadays, I'm still going. Nowadays, people have become so desensitized. It's normal when they say certain things in the movies. It's normal when we see advertisement. Oh yeah, that's supposed to be like that. That's not bad. That's just a normal thing. No, it's not. It's normal because that's what Satan's done. That's what the world's done. It's been woven into our society to accept it. We need to stand up and say, no, this isn't right. This isn't. It might be normal for the world. It's not normal for me. It's not normal for God. It's not normal for my heart. So we need to be careful what we're allowing in our households, and especially us that have children. Here we are supposed to be putting wisdom into them, and we're allowing stuff in TV. That's the babysitter nowadays. Put in front of TV or give them their iPad and turn them loose. Well, that's not where they need to be learning from. That's not where they're going to get godly advice. We need to make sure that if that's what they're on, then let's lock it down. Let's put some parental controls on it. You want to play on it, you can play this. That's it. When you turn 18 and you make your own decisions, you can make your own decisions. You're a minor for a reason. Kids are a minor for a reason. And in our minds, we need to think of, and that's how God looks at me. I'm still a minor in God's eyes. I'm still learning. I still have a lot of stuff I don't understand. I want to learn. And he's got me locked down on a lot of stuff right now. He's got the parental control turned on me. And he's like, nope, John, you can't do this. You can't control yourself. You don't have your mindset is still as a baby, as a minor. You can't make the proper decision. So you can't go there. You can't do this. You can't, because I used to say, I want to be normal. Well, no, I am normal. I'm normal for God. It's people used to say, why can't you just drink like everybody else? Well, because that's not the way my brain worked. I let my habit, my addiction take hold of me, and where I should have been addicted to God, I was addicted to everything else, and I'll battle that for the rest of my life. So, and I'm getting long-winded here, but it's 8 o'clock. But I had a couple more I wanted to cover, but anyways, we'll stop there, and maybe Bishop will sneak up on me on another night at church and jump on me and get me to do this again. But I really appreciate Bishop for pushing us forward in this. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did. So, and it's one of them things we wouldn't have never volunteered for this if Bishop hadn't snuck up on me a couple of weeks ago and pushed me on it. So I just want to thank Bishop for allowing us chance and pushing us into our purpose. The vision that he has for the church is spot on. And I just want to thank the rest of the church family for tuning in. And there's a lot going on at church this weekend. The time has changed on the special speakers this weekend, in case you guys didn't see it on Face Live. I think it's 9 a.m., 10 a.m. on the music worship, and then the food truck at 11 now. So if you guys hadn't seen that on Face Live, let's do that. Service at 10 a.m. on Sunday. So we are open now. So you can come in. I think Christine still has Zoom up though. If those that don't feel quite safe, I think Zoom is still up. But Bobby, can I get you to take us out in prayer, Bobby?
No, yes, sir. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this this time together in your word and Proverbs and learning about knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. God, I just thank you for using John and Amy as a vessel to just pour onto your people. God, thank you for what you're doing in their life. I just thank you for this Bible study. It's been amazing, absolutely amazing. I thank you for all the people that have logged on and just taken an hour of their time to just be poured into. And so, Lord, have your way. God, I ask that you would just bless everybody on this meeting. God, that you would just bring peace to their house. God, I'm asking for increase and more over your people right now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Hang on, Bishop, I hear you. Is there something you want to add, Bishop, before we dial off?
Just that I'm so proud of everyone and proud of the two of you and you and your beautiful wife doing such a wonderful job tonight. Can we all give them a hand clap and thank God for their life and their study in the word? So proud of the two of you. And just prepare yourself because there's more to come. And I'm so proud to be a part of your futures.
Well, thank you guys. And as always, remember, pursue purpose and impact the world.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night, Frontier family.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye. Love you guys. Thank you guys for an awesome word.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.